The year was 2010. I looked like this. Eclipse had just come out in cinemas and I decided enough was enough. I had to know what this vampire craze was all about. So I went to the library and got the Twilight Saga. 10 years later, I decided that it would be a good time to revisit the franchise and see if I still liked it. I don't remember much about reading Twilight back in 2010. I don't remember much of 2010 in general. I have serious memory issues. But I know that I liked it because I own all 5 books. So if I didn't like it, then I don't think I would own all 5 books.
How long have you been 17?
A while.
I feel like everyone on planet Earth knows the basic premise of Twilight. A vampire boy, Edward, falls in love with a human girl, Bella, and danger and romance ensues. The first Twilight book is very, very much just what you would expect, but I have to say I still loved it. I read all 5 books in 10 days, and I think I read, it was like 2 days each. So I read the first Twilight book in 2 days, and I was expecting this time to, kind of find it a little bit more cringy, and I did, to be fair, I did find it a bit more cringy, but I expected it to be like, oh, I don't like this, but I'm not gonna lie, I loved it. I gave it 10 stars. I gave it 5 stars. There's just something about this world and these characters that just sucks you in so fast. So my favourite thing about Twilight, and by favourite I mean the absolute worst thing, is that Bella is called clumsy every 2 sentences, perhaps. I don't think there's a single page where Bella being clumsy and that her being her number 1 character trait is not mentioned or brought up. She falls over, she almost gets hit by a truck. Just every other page, Bella's being clumsy, and it's just the most basic 2000s girl character trope possible, but I don't know, there's something about reading it that's just so funny, in retrospect, and it should be a bad thing, but I kinda loved it. My favourite line in the entire first Twilight book is when Edward and Bella describe Bella as being his favourite brand of heroin. And I don't know about you, but I didn't know that heroin came in brands. But I just read that and I was like, okay. That was when the book got 5 stars for me. As soon as they said that she was his favourite brand of heroin, I was like, okay, 5 stars. 5 stars. Another classic moment that we all love, I feel like everyone knows it, is when Bella's like, I know what you are. And Edward's like, say it. And she goes, a vampire. And she literally doesn't care about the fact he's a vampire. She doesn't care. It doesn't cross her mind oh, maybe I shouldn't be involved with him. She kind of thinks about it for maybe half a second, and then she's like, I don't care if you're a vampire. It's fine. It's just so funny to me that she just didn't care at all. He cared more about the fact he's a vampire than she did. She was like, okay, you're a vampire. That's cool. It's almost as he just told her that I don't know, he was half Mexican, and she was like, okay. She didn't care in the slightest. Also, okay, reading the Twilight book, I just had this feeling. I was like, I get why people are so obsessed with these, because I want to be a vampire. Reading these books, you're like, okay, being a vampire is kind of cool. I don't know, not sleeping, being the most educated people in the world, having all these talents, Edward plays piano and stuff, and speaks all the different languages. I don't know, I feel like it would just be really useful to be a vampire. And obviously they're rich as well, so what's not to love? My main issue with Twilight, other than the clumsy thing, but that's kind of a joke, is the fact that the antagonist James shows up in maybe the last, I looked up actually, I think it's the last 75 pages. So this whole book, he shows up 75 pages before the end, and he really doesn't have a motive. He becomes a big villain, but he doesn't really have a motive other than the fact that he's a hunter. That's all they say, oh, he's a hunter, he's a hunter. He wants to hunt you. And I just feel that's such a, I don't know, weak excuse for a villain. I get he's a vampire, but I don't know, I feel there should have been something else other than the fact that he just wants to kill you because he's a hunter. So, other than that, I absolutely love Twilight, and I gave it 5 stars, which, when I tweeted that, people were kind of shocked. People were like, okay, some people were on board, they were like, yes, 5 stars, 5 stars, and others were like, okay, you need to explain this. New Moon introduces shapeshifters and werewolves into the series. I say werewolves like this because they are shapeshifters. They just have taken on the form of wolves like by chance, pretty much. And that's in the form of Jacob, who becomes Bella's best friend in this book. He was kind of introduced in the first one, but he's not that big a character. But New Moon is like Jacob's book. And he becomes the main character because the Cullens leave because Edward feels like it's too dangerous for Bella for him to be around. And I just felt like they left so abruptly. Like, it was Bella's birthday, and then Jasper almost bit Bella because she cut her hand. And they were like, okay, bye. Like, it was just too abrupt, and I don't know, I didn't really like it that much. Because it just felt so forced. It felt like, okay, we need to get some conflict in here, so we'll just make them break up. And I don't know, I thought it was kind of weird. What I really liked in this book though was Bella's depression and like Bella's pain. Like when Bella was in pain, I was in pain. Like Stephanie Meyer really done a good job portraying depression, I feel like, in a good way. She just completely, Bella withdraws from her friends, and I really like, there's a sequence where the pages of the book just say like, it's a blank page and it says like, I don't remember the months, like September, then a blank page in October, blank page in November, and I just thought it was a really good way of showing like how the months passed just away with Bella just wasting them, like doing absolutely nothing because she just became so dead inside because of the fact that Edward left her. So this is when she meets Jacob again, and they become like really good friends, and Jacob is like so in love with Bella, and obviously there's supposed to be like this whole like, oh well, she chose Edward, well she chose Jacob, like team Edward, team Jacob thing, but on all honesty, see, when you read it, there's no chance of Jacob ever having like a chance with Bella. Like, she just uses him the entire book. Like, she does enjoy being around him and she likes having him as a friend, but he really is like pushing like, oh, maybe you should just choose me instead of Edward, and she really just doesn't care about him at all in that way. And she's literally using him to like hear, she starts hallucinating Edward's voice in her head, and she's just using Jacob to like get the hallucination. She's like, oh Jacob, let's go motorcycle riding, and he's like, yes, we're gonna date. And the entire time she's just thinking like, oh, I hope I hear Edward. Like, it's kind of funny. Then New Moon has the whole not twist, I don't know. Basically, Edward believes that Bella has killed herself because she jumps off a cliff. And also Victoria, who was James's friend from the first book, she's trying to hunt Bella. So there's like two kind of things going on. And Victoria, I liked her more than James because at least she has a motive. So she is trying to kill Bella because Edward killed James. So she's like, okay, he killed my mate, I'll kill his mate. And I like that more because at least she had kind of a motive to after Bella, and rather than James just like, oh, he's a hunter. So I thought that was kind of more interesting. But obviously Bella jumps off a cliff to hear Edward's voice as a hallucination, and then Alice comes back to find out if she's dead, but before she gets there, there's like a whole misunderstanding, and basically Edward thinks that Bella has killed herself. So he goes to Volturi in Italy and is about to do a suicide attempt, and it's so embarrassing. He like is strutting into the sun, because obviously they sparkle in the sun, and he's like taking his shirt off, and it's just so cringe, it's so embarrassing. I'm like, okay, if you're gonna kill yourself, like just do it properly. Like, the whole just like him being so melodramatic, and Alice even said, she's like, oh, he wants to put on a show, like he wants to kill himself but he wants to put on a show. So it's just like too much, and they get there just in time. Obviously, like as soon as he's got like 1 foot out in the sun, Bella's like jumps on him, and it's just like it's cute. I mean, I kind of liked it, and Bella forgives him just like instantly. Like, she's like, oh yeah, you broke my heart and I wasted the last like 5 months sitting in my room screaming every night, having nightmares because of you, but now that we're back together, it's fine. And also, when they were in Volturi afterwards, like talking to the Volturi palace people, I realised that this book has the chosen one trope. Bella is the chosen one, and the fact that she is like the only person in the world who can't hear, Edward can't hear her thoughts, and she's the only person who, what's her name? Jane's like mind pain thing doesn't work on, and she's like the only person that Arrow like can't read their thoughts by touching as well. Like, she's the only person in the whole world who all these powers don't work on just her. And I was like, okay, like this is kind of the chosen one trope, but I mean, I don't really care about that. And then they go home and they live happily ever after.
I'm asking you to kiss me.
If Twilight was Edward's book and New Moon was Jacob's book, Eclipse is basically the two of them fighting for Bella's love. But it's kind of sad because she really doesn't care about Jacob. Like, she is always just like, oh yeah, Jacob's my best friend. Like, oh, I really love Jacob. But she doesn't love him. In this book, because Edward's kind of jealous of the whole Jacob thing, he gets really controlling for a while, and it's quite annoying, but he does get over it kind of fast. Like, a lot of the stuff I see online, like the criticisms of the Twilight books, are that they've got a really unhealthy relationship, and they do in some aspects, definitely. And they definitely do go through a phase where he's very controlling in this book, but he does get over it really fast, and it ends up trusting Bella, and I think it's quite a good thing. I think it's kind of realistic. Like, obviously, his girlfriend, well, they were slut, but she spent all this time with another guy and he's came back, and she's saying that she wants Edward, but she still also wants Jacob. So obviously he's going to be like kind of jealous and stuff. So I didn't think it was that bad. Like, it was kind of annoying, but he does get over it, and he's like, okay, you know what? I believe you. I'll trust you. Like, you can hang out with Jacob again. So I thought that was quite nice, and I don't really think it's that problematic that other people do. Eclipse mentions Wuthering Heights, which is like my favorite book, so many times, and it was kind of surreal to me. I don't know why. I just like was reading it, and it was like giving like extracts from Wuthering Heights, and they were like discussing like Heathcliff and Cathy, and I don't know, I was reading it and I was kind of like, okay, maybe me and Bella are the same person. And I felt like a tweet on Twitter of like a comparison of like me and Bella, and people thought it was funny. Like, I don't know, it was just something about it that was really surreal to me, like reading Eclipse and having Wuthering Heights be mentioned so many times. One thing that really gets brought up in Eclipse, which I just don't understand where Stephanie Meyer was going with it, or like what the point in it is. Like, a lot of the stuff, it's weird in these books, and I'm like, okay, it's because they're vampires and stuff, like, I get it. But in this book, so it's explained that the werewolves can imprint on people, and as soon as that happens, it's like they are so deeply in love with them, like they cannot leave them alone, they can't stop thinking about them. And it's like, it's kind of weird, but I'm like, okay, I kind of get it. But then she brings in the whole thing about like Quill imprinting on a 2-year-old, and he's not like romantically in love with her, it's just like he wants to protect her, he wants to be like a father figure and like a brother, he wants to care for her, like he wants to be her biggest protector and stuff. And it's like, I just don't get why she felt it was necessary to introduce this into the series. Like, it's kind of, I don't know, I just think it's really weird. Like, obviously it's explained that it's not meant to be weird when it's like the kids and stuff. Like, he doesn't think of her in like a bad way, like a, you know, inappropriate way. He literally just wants to like be a brother there and like protect her and stuff. But they talk about how like, so the werewolves don't really age as well. So like, okay, when she grows up, then Quill will be waiting for her, and I'm like, but then he'll like, okay, his body hasn't changed, but he'll realistically be an extra 10 years older. So he'll be like 27 and she's like 16 or whatever. I don't know what age they're all meant to be, but like, I don't know, it was just really weird. I don't really understand why she put it in the books. And then obviously in Breaking Dawn, it's like, that's quite an important part of the story. So Victoria finally strikes back in this book. She makes up like a big army to attack the Cullens and kill Bella once and for all, and obviously it fails. But before that, there's this scene. So Bella is really selfish, I think. So all of the Cullens are going to fight Victoria's army, and she makes Edward sit out. And I just think it's kind of selfish because like all of his family are at risk, and obviously he would also be at risk. But he's asking his family to fight for him and his girlfriend, and he's not even taking part because she's like, oh no, I want you to stay with me. And I'm like, I just think it's kind of, I don't get it. I mean, I do get it, I just don't really like it. But whatever. So Bella, Jacob, and Edward are all in a tent together, and they think Bella's asleep, and they're like talking about her, and it's just so creepy because she's not asleep. She's lying there like listening to like her boyfriend and her best friend who's in love with her like talk about her, and it's just so, I was imagining, I was like, it's just so cringe. Like, see if you were in her situation, oh my god, I can't imagine, it would just be so awkward. And then Jacob basically guilt tripped Bella into kissing him, which is just awful. Like the whole kiss scene is just so bad. I hated it. And yeah, that whole scene as well, it was just so cringe. Like, I did like Eclipse, but there was a lot of just weird stuff in it, like the imprinting and like this whole conversation was just weird. And then they have another kiss like later on, like Bella and Jacob, and it's even worse than the first one, like, cause she's just not into it, and she's like, oh, maybe I do love Jacob as well, but it's not, like, she is in love with Edward, and I just couldn't with the relationship in this book. I just couldn't deal with it.
Why did you come? Who created you?
The Short Second Life of Bree Tanner is like a little spin-off novella focusing on one of the newborns that are in Victoria's army from Eclipse, and I really liked it. I liked all the characters. They were very different from the main series characters, and because you know that at the end of Eclipse Bree Tanner dies, it's kind of sad to read, like, her and like this, she's almost in a relationship kind of. I mean, they've known each other for 2 days, but that's the usual for the Twilight books. Like, they meet once and they're in love. So I don't know, it's kind of sad to read it, but yeah, I don't have that many other thoughts on it. It was a nice little sidestep. I read it between Eclipse and Breaking Dawn, and I'm glad I did, because it just kind of got me more excited to go back to the main plotline of the books and like the main characters and stuff. But yeah, it's definitely like a nice little book.
Nessie? You nicknamed my daughter after the Loch Ness Monster?
Breaking Dawn is the grand finale of the series, and it starts off with Bella and Edward's wedding, and I really liked it. I thought it was really cute. I don't know, it was just like a nice cute little wedding scene. There wasn't that much to it, and the main point of the wedding is the honeymoon in these books. So the wedding happens and then they go off on their honeymoon and they do what they do on the honeymoon, and then literally like 3 days later Bella realizes that she is pregnant with a little vampire baby, and it's too good. Like, her realizing she's pregnant is just like too good, because obviously they don't think it can actually happen, and she's like, at first she's panicking and then she's like, oh, I love it already. Like, it's literally not even it's like a cell, and she's like, oh my god, I love it so much. Which, I don't know, I'm not a mother, I can't talk about how you connect to your fetus and stuff, but I don't know, I just thought it was kind of funny. And like the whole time Edward is like, so Edward wants it gone. Edward's like, we need to kill that thing now. And he's like frozen, like he's literally standing like this. And Bella's like, oh, I love it so much, I love it. And he's just thinking in his head like, kill it, kill it, kill it. So they go back home and Bella gets heavy pregnant. I think the whole pregnancy lasts like 3 weeks or something like that, or maybe a bit longer, I don't know. But like the pregnancy happens fast, and then we switch to Jacob's perspective. And at first, okay, Bella hasn't given birth yet, but like the pregnancy's going on, and we switched to Jacob's perspective. And at first I was like, oh my god, why? Like, I was so annoyed. I was like, I don't want to hear about Jacob's perspective. Like, I don't care about Jacob's stupid stupid werewolf ass. Like, but then it's low-key kind of interesting. It's nice to see like another perspective, because the whole book, the whole series has been Bella's perspective. So in my head I was like, I don't want to hear someone else's perspective in the last moment or the last book. But it was actually kind of interesting, and the way that the wolves obviously talk to each other, I thought it was quite interesting to read all their thoughts as things were happening and things like that. I don't know, I didn't hate it as much as I thought I would. Like, as soon as I flipped the page and it was like Jacob's book or whatever it says, I was like, oh my god. But I actually quite liked it. And there's a really funny scene where Edward's basically telling Jacob, because Edward wants the baby dead, so like Bella's like pregnant at this point, like she's heavy pregnant, and Edward still wants to kill it. So he's like, Jacob, if she wants to be pregnant that bad, then maybe she could just get pregnant with you. And he's like such a cuck, and it's so funny. Jacob's like, are you actually asking me this, like for real? And Edward's like, worth a try. And then obviously Bella's like, that's not what I want. But I don't know, the whole scene was just one of those other, I feel like every time Jacob and Edward are together, it's just like comedy gold because they're just so funny, like, because they're just so awkward and the other conversations are always so weird. So then other stuff happens, I don't even know. Jacob becomes the alpha of the wolves, which I knew was going to happen before it happened. Like, you could just tell it was building up to that. And then Bella starts drinking human blood, like, through a straw, like, through a sippy cup to feed her baby who's, like, killing her from the inside out. And that was just so funny to me as well. Like, just visualizing her, like, sitting there, like, lying on the couch with her little cup. Like, I don't know, I just thought it was so funny. I really liked Leah in this book. She was another one of the werewolves. She is like kind of a voice of reason to Jacob a lot of times when they're in their wolf farms and they're talking to each other in their heads, and she's like explaining stuff to him that he doesn't want to hear, which was so annoying because she was actually like making perfect sense. I can't remember what the conversation was now, but like I thought it was, I don't know, I really liked Leah. And then the most traumatizing birth in human history happens. Like, the baby like punches Bella's spine out. Like, she is like dead basically. She's lying on the bed. Like, Edward Edward eats the baby out of her stomach. Not eats it, but like he has to like chew through the, I don't know what you call the embryos thing. I don't know, whatever the baby is, and like Edward has to chew through it. Like, he's biting her up, and then she's dying, so he wants to turn into a vampire. So he's like stabbing her in the heart with like his venom, like his vampire venom, and he's like biting all over her with his vampire little bites. And I was like, okay, see, even though she's like half dead, like this must be so traumatizing still. Like, I know she comes back and she's like a vampire and she's all magically healed, but in my head I was like, you would have PTSD for like a good century, like even if you were a vampire, like, because obviously vampires aren't immune to like mental health issues because Edward's always like trying to kill himself over Bella. So like, I don't know, I just was like, okay, she's definitely gonna have some trauma from this whole experience because I definitely have some trauma. And then we find out that Jacob's imprinted on her baby, and that's why he's been in love with her since book 2. I was gonna say book 1, but mostly book 2. Like, he's been in love with her because her egg inside of her body, like, he was attracted to the egg inside of her body, and I was, oh my god, I couldn't do it anymore. I was like, I knew it was gonna happen, and then we get the best, like, line of the entire series. So the baby's called Renesmee, which is Bella's mother and Edward's mother's names put together, and then they shorten it to Nessie. Like, Jacob calls her Nessie, and Bella goes, "You nickname my daughter after the Loch Ness Monster?" And it's just the funniest, like, it's just so good. It's the best line in the entire series. Like, "You nickname my daughter after the Loch Ness Monster." It doesn't get much better than that. And then their baby, I don't even care about the rest of it, to be honest. The baby like grows like super fast, like, cause it's like half vampire, half human. And then this other vampire who's like kind of friends with the Cullens, called her Irina, she sees it and thinks it's an immortal child, which is like this bad vampire baby thing. I don't know. So she goes to the Volturi from the second book, and they come and they are going to destroy the Cullens. They're going to knock down the entire family. Like, they want them dead. They want to capture Alice for like her mind, because she could be the future. They want to capture her and make her part of the Volturi so they can use her powers. But other than that, they just want to kill everyone. They're like sick of the Cullens. And then so the Cullens summon the X-Men. Like, they go around the world and get all the little vampires with all their special abilities, and basically the X-Men are born. And then they have a final battle. I wish they had a battle. So they have a standoff between all the X-Men and the Volturi, and it made me really anxious, to be honest, even though I knew how it ended. Like, parts of me was still like, oh my god, like, I feel kind of sick. I was like nervous because, you know, I love the Cullens. I felt like I was there with them. I was like, I'm a vampire too, like, I'll come help you out. But yeah, Bella is going to send Jacob and Renesmee away to like escape from the thing. Like, if it starts to go wrong and there starts to be like a fight, they're going to flee to like Rio de Janeiro. And there's another weird, every time Jacob and Edward are together, it gets weird. So Bella's like about to send them away to run, and Edward is like, "Goodbye, Jacob, my son." I was like, oh my god. I was like, shut up. Like, it was just another scene. I was like, I can't deal with like Jacob. Like, I just can't deal with Jacob. Then Alice at the last minute saves the day, and there's no fight. And to be honest, I would have preferred a fight, because I remember, okay, so obviously I'd read the books before I seen Breaking Dawn the movies, and I remember sitting in the cinema watching Breaking Dawn Part 2, and that, like, if you haven't seen the movie, they act out the fight because Alice has like a future vision. She shows, everything's so complicated. She shows one of the Volturi what would happen if they decide to fight the Cullens, and but at first you don't realize it's a vision, like it just happens, and like you're sitting there and you're thinking, okay, nothing happens in the book, and then Carlisle's head gets ripped off, and I just remember sitting in the cinema and everyone was like, like everyone was gasping, people were shocked, like everyone was like, oh my, what is going on? Because I feel like everyone kind of read the books, and I just remember thinking, surely they can't do this. Like, is there not laws against changing like an adaptation this much? I don't know. All I know was I was shook. And that was the Twilight Saga. This is like my longest video ever, and I can't even cut anything out because I feel like everything I've said is so important to the integral plot of the Twilight books. So I hope you've enjoyed if you've actually watched it to this point, and thank you so much for watching it. Yeah, thank you. And please read the Twilight books because I am a Twilight stan, and I will be talking about them from now until the end of time. Okay, bye.